the opportunities are endless. It's just, are you willing to position yourself for them? Look, if you're trying to get an ROI, you're trying to monetarily benefit from it, you're gonna have to put your work out there. And that's a mindset shift that you're gonna have to make. I can't do that for you. Your chair can't do that for you. You're gonna have to make that decision for yourself. On today's episode of From ABD to PhD Show, we're going to talk about one question as a doctoral student you should consider, but probably haven't yet. And that question is, how do you maximize the return on investment, the ROI, of having a done dissertation? One of the things that we know is that, you want to finish your dissertation, but finishing your dissertation isn't just about earning those 3 letters, right? It's also about leveraging everything you gained, your research, your skill set, your expertise, to then use that to open new doors for opportunities, whether that be at work, whether that be creating your own consulting opportunities, whether it be just growing your career, whether it's making an impact with your work. But sometimes we don't think about, and we can approach doing the hard work of finishing, but we don't think about what's the long-term strategy, or what's the long-term ROI of having a done dissertation. And one thing is that you have to consider with this question is that, why am I willing to stay ABD knowing that there is a ROI that I can get on having a done dissertation? And so in today's episode, what we're going to do is I'm going to share with you how you can approach maximizing the ROI with your done dissertation. This is one of the things that I know is critical to finishing the process, because you got to maximize it. There's no need of doing all this work to finish your dissertation if you're not going to maximize the return of it. And I don't want you all sitting ABD, because it just hurts my heart when I hear people who are stuck, knowing that there's help out there, but just not willing to because of maybe being comfortable where they are, etc. So I don't want that for you. And before we get into today's content, this episode of From ABD to PhD Show is sponsored by the Done Dissertation Velocity Coaching Program, which has the goal of helping you, the doctoral student, write and defend your dissertation in record time. So if you're someone interested in getting support, getting that infrastructure, and getting everything you need, go ahead right here and hit and schedule your complimentary consultation by scanning the QR code, or by going to www.velocitydissertation.com. And so with that, I want to get into today's material, because I'm looking forward to talking with you all more about this. How do you get your ROI with the done dissertation? And so the first thing I want you to consider is that you're going to have to recognize that your doctorate has value outside of academia. Because one of the things that we hear from a lot of folks is that they don't always see the value of the degree, because they're thinking about it like, oh, the main place I can really leverage this is in academia. But like, no, your degree and actually your skill set that you gain from going through this doctoral process is applicable in so many other areas, but you just have to be the one to recognize it, that your degree has value outside of academia. Like it's no need. Like literally the skill set, I always tell people this, like, they're like, how did you figure out like the stuff around business? The reason how I was able to figure out the business and the niche, particularly around the business, was because of being able to write a literature review. And so I'm gonna bring these two together. Like how do these two equate? So when you write a literature review, part of your job is to understand first what the scholarly conversation is, right? So you got to figure out who the authors are, who are the key people. Then at some point within that scholarly discourse, you figure out, all right, there's these 10 researchers who are key in my area, but they haven't considered this little area of research that I'm going to do for my dissertation, right? So that process, that thought process that I did in order to develop the niche that became my dissertation, is the same thing I had to do as an entrepreneur in business, right? I had to figure out, all right, what do I want to have my business focus on? So you started figuring out, all right, I've been supporting doctoral students, I want to coach them. But what type of doctoral student? And so I had to figure out, all right, there's a lot of programs that do different types of things, but I want to focus on a certain type of student. So I had to figure out who was my avatar. I wanted someone who was willing to invest in themselves, not only money, but time and energy in order to finish, right? I needed somebody who was looking to and wanted to execute themselves and weren't looking for someone to do it for them, per se, but wanted help and guide on the side. I had to recognize that, we wanted to work with clients who had something to gain by earning their doctorate. Like they wanted to do something with their doctorate, whether that be, going to higher education, whether it become an entrepreneur, whatever it is. We wanted people who had something to gain, and we wanted people who were executors, right? And so that became who I'm looking to work with, right? And if you're that person, that's who we want to work with in our programs. So I was able to figure that part out because I had written a literature review. Honestly, it was the same skill set, just I was applying the skill set to a different type of task. That is what you can do and how you should be able and thinking about leveraging your degree, because your the doctorate has value outside of academia. That process right there, if you could help someone figure that out in terms of like a business opportunity or something like that, because you have that skill set, there is endless things that you could do with your doctorate. It's just a matter of you getting outside of your own head in terms of what you have seen other people do with their doctorate. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. That's why I do those episodes of Done Dissertation Office Hours. So if you go to our YouTube channel and click the Done Dissertation Office Hours playlist, you'll see all the interviews I've done with different people inside of academia, outside of academia, people who are entrepreneurs, people who are consultants, people who use their research, for other things like policymakers, so many different ways to use your doctorate, but it's only about what you can envision, and being willing to envision something different for yourself. So that's really important. So that's going to be first things first. Now, if you want to maximize the ROI on your having a done dissertation, the next thing I want you to consider is that you're going to have to be willing to position yourself as a thought leader, because positioning yourself as a thought leader then leads to opportunity. You're going to have to put your work out there. Look, if you're trying to get an ROI, you're trying to monetarily benefit from it, you're going to have to put your work out there. But, of course, that might be putting your work out in, peer review publications, those type of venues. But then you're going to have to write your op-eds and be in spaces and conversations where the people who could hire you to consult, where they read, where they go, what they do. So let's say, for instance, one of our clients in our business accelerator was focusing on Black women nonprofit leaders. So they know that they need to be writing and going in those spaces, in those conferences where those nonprofit leaders show up. You have to figure it out, but that's going to require you to be able to be willing to position yourself as a thought leader, because it's going to lead you to opportunity. And this is why I've been putting this work out there for so long. Think about it, I've been doing just the live video and content for actually going on 5 years straight, at least an episode per week. Because I understand that when you continue to put yourself out there, it positions you as a thought leader. And so in the dissertation space, doctoral education space, I'm indeed a thought leader in this space. I also am a thought leader in my research area on diversifying the teacher and school leader workforce and Black male student success, because I had written for publication, peer review publication, and had done other work with policymakers, all these things, you're able to position yourself. And I've had a number of opportunities because of that. The opportunities are endless. It's just, are you willing to position yourself for them? And that's going to be you putting yourself out there as a thought leader. That's how you're going to get your ROI. There's no need for the work and research you do just to sit in, your, that binded dissertation, book that you create. And even if you decide like, hey, you don't want to stay with your dissertation research, that's cool. You have the skill set now. Do whatever research you want to do, but just continue to put yourself out there. That is going to be critical for you to get to where you want to go and to maximize the ROI. Because it's one thing to get an ROI, but I want you to maximize it, because you all put hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment into yourself and your education throughout your lifetime. So why not position yourself as a thought leader to reap a ROI on the skill set and on that investment you've been making over the last, I don't know, maybe some of you all 10 years, some of y'all 15, 20 years, depending on how long you've been in school, right? So it's been, years, at least a decade, y'all been in school. Like, you want to continue to reap the reward. So you're going to have to position yourself as an expert and put yourself out there. But the thing is, once you're able and you're willing to position yourself as a thought leader and an expert, because it's going to lead to opportunity, you're going to have to recognize that finishing your dissertation actually going to give you an instant ROI on your time. One of the things that I always will say is that, time is more valuable than money, because every second that clicks away, you cannot get that back. One thing, somebody could take all your money today, but you can go back and make more money. But the time thing is so valuable. So this is why I hate to see students that are stuck in these programs and they're stuck for so long and they're not willing to do anything different, because you are wasting time. And that time has value, not only for your own personal life, but also for the opportunities that you might have in terms of employment, consulting, etc. There is such a loss. It hurts to lose that time because you can't get it back. But here's the caveat I want to say for you, because you might be someone like, oh man, I wasted so much time. At this point, you can't do anything about the past, right? So that has to, you have to almost like shut the past off and then say, all right, I lost that time. Cool. I can't do anything about that. However, I'm not willing to lose any more time. And if you're in that boat, you're the type of person that we want to work with in our Velocity program. And so if you're interested in learning more, you can scan the QR code or go to www.velocitydissertation.com, because what we know, we want the people who are willing to put in the time and effort to finish this thing. It's going to take you time to get done. But if you're willing to put in the time, the ROI of finishing is instant on your time. Now you can do the things that you're doing. Like I have one client who has kids who travel out for sports, but they found that trying to write the dissertation, the traveling became a challenge. Like now that person, when they finish, they can go back to traveling with their kids for the sports. Like all these things, there's so much time that we can get back to do other things. And some of our clients recognize this when they finish a dissertation, like, oh my God, I'm done. Like, what do I do with all this time? I didn't realize how much time I was devoting to this. And so, the ROI and the time is so valuable. And sometimes we don't consider it until it's after the fact. But I want you to start thinking about this now because it's going to become critical for you to finish. And then the last piece, when we think about how to maximize the ROI of a done dissertation, is that figuring out what do you need to do. You might be like, well, what does that mean in terms of ROI? Because what ends up happening for a lot of folks is that they have these grand plans about what they're going to do, and then they don't have a execution strategy on them. It happens to me sometimes too, because I have ideas. I'm an idea generator. I got ideas for days on how to do stuff, but sometimes I have to recognize that the ideas, I don't have the bandwidth yet to execute them. So for you have to figure out, all right, if you've been stuck, for instance, in your dissertation, what you do is figuring out, one, it might be a conversation like, am I willing to spend the time that I need and devote the energy that I need to this dissertation to be done? That might be a question you're going to have to ask yourself. Then from there, you might say, hey, I haven't been able to do this myself. Am I willing to find help and invest in help to get to where I want to go? That's going to be another important question you have to consider as terms of next steps. And then you're going to have to figure out, where can I get that support from? And part of that is why we do this content. We want to provide you all the insights and the clarity. So if you're that person, this is why you're watching this episode. But if you know someone who's going through this, send them this video, and then put the timestamp at this point when I'm talking about these questions they want to consider. Because this is why we do what we do in our Velocity coaching program, because we want to help people who want to help themselves, who are ready to be done, willing to invest the time, energy, and financial resources to get done, and then recognize they have something that waits for them on the other side of this thing, and are willing to execute. And so if you have gotten to the point where you've been stuck, but you're willing to do those things, then we are the perfect match. We are a great fit for you. And so what we would invite you to do is actually go to our website, which is here on the screen at www.velocitydissertation.com, or you can scan our QR code to learn more and schedule a complimentary consultation. Because one thing I don't want to see is you as a doctoral student be stuck in the same position right now that you were last year. And it's even worse. And you can, Dr. Tammy Lane, who was a guest on one of our episodes, you can go on our playlist for client success stories playlist on YouTube, and you can see her story, how she talked about, well, Dr. Goins and I chatted 2 years ago and I didn't do anything, but then, I finally got hard enough where I wanted to do something. And then when she came in our program, she joined in January of 2024 and defended her dissertation in March. She was past her proposal defense. So she was writing up her findings in conclusion chapter. 3 months in and out. It doesn't take long, but it's going to take for you to be dedicated and willing to put the resources in, time, energy, finances, etc., to get done. And that's a mindset shift that you're going to have to make. I can't do that for you. Your chair can't do that for you. You're going to have to make that decision for yourself. But I want to see you win. And the fact that you're still watching this video lets me know that you want to win for yourself. So with that said, I want to make sure that you go ahead and schedule a complimentary consultation by scanning the QR code that's here on your screen. Pause this video to make sure you scan. You can go right to the link. But with that said, I want to say thank you so much for watching this episode from ABD to PhD show. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Ramon Goings, founder of Done Dissertation. And our goal at Done Dissertation is to help you demystify the dissertation so that you can write and defend your dissertation in record time. And with that said, I want to say thank you so much for watching and tuning in. And until next time, I wish you all a Done Dissertation. Have a great week and take care.